Good evening, everyone. It's been a while, hasn't it? I actually had to catch myself up to find out exactly where I stopped. So, yeah, here I am again. Let's move on. If I remember correctly, last video ended with us just coming out of a conversation with Catherine Wise, since Yulia is sort of a migrations officer right now. And we're to meet with Kadir. Wait, where's the conversation history? It's been a while, bear with me. Ah, jeez. I don't remember how to see the log of conversation. Oh. That was the log. Well, excuse me. My unattentive self is showing. Slow night. I wish. You're late again, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. Kadir al-Azmai, the mighty sheriff of New York City, is not happy with me. No wonder. I met him in front of Elysium 30 minutes later than the time we had agreed on. Alright, more codex entries. Sheriff. An appointed officer who enforces the prince's edicts, and if Kadir is any measure, a real stick in the mud. A sheriff hunts down traitors and violators of the traditions. Only the greatest offenders are typically apprehended and brought back to be judged in front of an assembled court. In lesser cases, sheriffs act as judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Wise decided to arrive fashionably late. A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city. If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my report. I pass him all of the official papers, the way I do every other night. Kadir stares me down for a good few seconds, then his steely gaze softens. You're serious. Wise in McDonald's, with the mask and elegant clothes, surrounded by the smell of French fries and hamburger patties. That must have been one hell of a sight. Technically, it was BBB, not McDonald's, but yeah. God, I made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted someone calling her a weirdo. I wanted to die on the spot. Serves you right, you walking faux pas. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new gaffy every week with you. Still, there's good news and bad news. The good news is, Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat. She's one of those rich art scene assholes who seek out working class cred. I did say something about watching your tongue. The bad news is, she is very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance at impressing her. Oh, shut up. You'll still need me for anything here. I'll get on it straight away. I wouldn't be sitting out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all it took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off. I never mentioned this before, but I kind of like the reflective effects on the vampire character's eyes in this visual novel. I think that was also the case in Coteries. It's a very interesting way, even if nothing in the rules states, but the medium is the message. You take creative liberties, and I like this one. Sorry. Couldn't be helped, I suppose. And it's more your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you could really use the chance to appear here on official duties, so everyone can get to know your face. Heaven knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to, what do they call it? Hustle? You don't need to tell me that. But it's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue-blooded douchebags is... He somehow manages to give me a painful nudge in the back without so much as a hint of visible movement. So, I saw some people online interpret this as him using celerity to do that, but I think this is more metaphorical. I doubt he would be using blink in the middle of the street. Language, you fool. They're coming out. Just stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will you? Got it. The first two silhouettes appear in the doorway of the art hall. An old man in a wheelchair, pushed forward by his young servant. Haven't seen either of them before. Imagine becoming a vampire at that ripe old age. Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you'll find the rest of it pleasant. Payne, the wheelchair. I've heard about him. Addison Payne, one of the American Camarilla's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways. Needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of resentment if I was embraced in this condition, but apparently Payne is nothing but grateful for his immortality. He keeps writing fervent defenses of the traditions and Camarilla customs. Let's talk, I guess. Good night, Mr. Payne. He wordlessly shakes Kadir's hand, but doesn't even deign to acknowledge me. At least his servant gives me a small bow. I return it. They leave. Kadir turns to the next person leaving. High Regent, can't wait to see you in your outfit. Spare me, Sheriff. These fancy dress parties cause me enough suffering without your help. I can only hope you haven't conspired with Helene to embarrass me with this gift. She points to a shrink-wrapped set of clothes she's carrying inside her coat. Kadir smirks briefly. I didn't have to. As you well know, Prince Panhard displays a considerable foresight in the matter of party planning. Yes, if there's one thing she's deathly serious about, it's frivolities. A recognizably mortal quality, especially for a prince. We ought to celebrate it, not oppose it. Don't worry, Sheriff, I'm a big girl who knows her etiquette. I will play your game, amuse the crowd a little bit, and return to my study as fast as possible. Aisling Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, a hero of the Battle of New York, the biggest warlock in town. Could be a prince herself if she didn't have her eyes on a bigger prize. Okay, first Clentremere. Named after the 8th century Hermetic mage whose followers, for a brief period, terrorized the world. The members of Clentremere today are only able to practice their reality-bending thaumaturgic arts after consuming fresh blood. This is because the Tremere of old fucked up in their relentless pursuit of immortality and were condemned. They have recently fallen into a great schism of competing houses, all vying for the title of rightful heir to their namesake's legacy. All about that rare artifact, life. Nicknames include warlocks, hermetics, or transgressors. Regent, the principals at the schoolhouses of the Tremere, also known as chantries. Every chantry has a regent who oversees the education of all the Tremere in attendance there. Regents may also hold positions on the Primogen Council and be active in the clan's strategic defenses. And the chantry is where the Tremere hang out. A lots of crusty books and smoking beakers type of place, I imagine. When are we gonna get a visual novel centered around a Tremere protagonist? A guy can dream. I mean, we got a La Sombra of all things. I guess it's not that outside the realm of possibility. Please hurry and do it. Please. The thing is, nobody knows what that prize is. They only know it has something to do with the goal of her thaumaturgical research. Whoever tried to find out what it was failed violently. I can't talk today. Oh, I'm sure you're going to have fun. Miss Savinsky here has just informed me Catherine Wise is back in town. It is safe to assume she will enjoy our festivities. You're kidding me. She did say she will attend the party. It's not safe to assume, it's certain. She told me she will be here tomorrow night. Wise. Excellent. I'd love to catch up with her. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that, in fact, she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special, but for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. Is there some kind of story between Aisling and Wise that I should be aware of? Shit. You could say that. High Regent Sturbridge once attempted to call for a blood hunt on Wise. A blood hunt is a punishment, sentencing a vampire to final death at the fangs of their peers. The Code of the Kindred and the system for punishing transgression is the law of retaliation. A lot of miscapitalization there, but that's fine. Wow. Why? I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of them seem implausible. Catherine's relationship with the city is odd, to say the least, but hush for now. He's obviously trying to kill the conversation, and the appearance of Thomas Arturo gives him a perfect way out. Mr. Arturo? Ah, Alasmai. Keep up the good work, eh? This fucker. Because of this fucker, the ending of the first game was an absolute shit show. Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of Prince Panhard's inner circle, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. A harpy, a kindred gossip master extraordinaire, will often trade their wisdom for favors or political gain. While harpy originated as an insult, some have taken the term back and wear it as a badge of pride. After all, who doesn't need a friend who has dirt on everyone? Considering how information is a deadly weapon in kindred society and the Camarilla loves internal intrigue, you can see how getting the favors of the harpy is a necessary thing, even if that puts you in a position where your secrets are still vulnerable as well. Good night. Good night, Mr. Arturo. Ah, yes. He disappears into the night. Well, that was brief. Maybe I should stand in their way. That might force them to properly acknowledge my existence. You severely underestimate their dedication to ignoring whelps like you. So many terms. Whelp. Not much different from the archaic human usage. Whelp is how we refer to your kid when they're fucking up. Kadir loves to use it to put me down from time to time. And just in case you're serious, I beg of you, don't. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now, but never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? He carefully measures his diplomatic response. I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever. Yeah, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well have called him a cunt. Language, whelp. And as for Arturo, I will share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than 1 week. A group of kindred emerges from the art hall, rushing towards the street. Only a noble-looking woman stops next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough, doesn't hide her hair beneath it. Primogen, If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice the cloth serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. I mean, barely. This lady's been through a lot. Kadir? Oh, and young Yulia. I'm doing my best not to stare because Samira is one of the few NYC Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me yet. Still here? Did the prince require the clan of the Hunt's council in some matter? Clan Banu Hakim. The Banu Hakim, called Assamites in the past, but that's basically a slur at this point, are a new addition to the Camarilla. Excuse me? Only having joined a few years ago. Before that, they were independent from both the Cam and the Anarchs, and they were used as assassins for hire. Supposed to be very good at that job too. And nowadays, it looks to me like they're rebranded themselves as keepers of the law, which still gives them the occasional chance to hunt somebody down, but no longer for a payment in blood, as used to be the tradition, or at least not overtly. The one member of the clan that I know well, Samira, is pretty cagey about this aspect of the Banu Hakim, but I've learned from a few other sources that members of the clan have a bit of a drinking problem. Once they taste another kindred's blood, they find it very hard to stop. Their inclusion in the Camarilla seems to have stirred some discontent among the Tremere, as the lawmen also use a form of blood sorcery to boost their abilities and observe different rituals. Some of them, clearly religiously motivated, owed in no small part to the fact that the clan has been traditionally tied to Islam and the Middle East in general. Now, obviously at first glance, their discontent of the Tremere with the inclusion of the Banu Hakim in the Camarilla is the fact that, well, we're supposed to have a monopoly on blood sorcery. Why are these guys coming in here, just edging into our territory, as it were? And also because the Tremere are not super well regarded. They're more seen as a necessary evil. Without blood sorcery as such a valuable asset, nobody would want them around in their sect. But with the Banu Hakim making themselves as valuable, they could become a more palatable alternative, which really hurts the Tremere's position. And also because Clan Banu Hakim, or Assamite, this curse of theirs that they are addicted to vampire blood. As soon as they taste vampire blood, they immediately need to make a frenzy check. Otherwise, they cannot stop drinking. And this was always their curse, but in previous editions, in addition to that, there was also the curse that the Tremere imposed on them as a condition of some sort of treaty many, many years ago, so that to prevent Banu Hakim from diablerizing people as a consequence of this curse, every point of blood from a vampire blood in their system would cause aggravated damage. It would physically hurt them to drink vampire blood. So, yeah, you can see how this would cause a bit of attrition between those two, in addition to the completely functional. Yes, I advise her that no matter how hard she tries, she shouldn't expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Hakim Primogen. Just like the La Sombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a Primogen, for one. Hailing from the Middle East, the Banu Hakim are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld and every transgression punished. They don't have much say in NYC, but the prince often seeks their judgment. It's just good PR. I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes. Thank you so much. I'm eager to see the outfit you came up with. And how are you, Yulia? Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? Same old, Samira. Still wandering in the dark, bumping my shin every 2 steps. Sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing. It's a process. Oh, Yulia, you won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. Kadir, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes? I'm trying to, Primogen, but with this child, it's always a process. I can only wish you good luck then. Good night, Yulia. Good night, Kadir. Good night. Have a safe trip. The art hall has to be almost empty by now. You like her, don't you? Stop your class clown act, whelp. It only serves to reveal deep insecurities. Wow, that's harsh. It's factual. Were I as harsh as you claim? She did tell us both to call her Samira, but you're still keeping your distance with that Primogen shit. Watch your profanity, and don't project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about professional boundaries, but I suspect the way you will eventually learn it will be extremely unpleasant. Am I interrupting something, good folks? This guy is creepy as hell. Look at that freaking Stepford-esque smile. Even though I'm constantly pestering him, Kadir's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed. Not at all, Mr. Van der Weyden. Heading back to your office? You know me, my dear Sheriff. Where else would I go? Now that's curious. Even though Carter Van der Weyden is a Primogen as well, Malkavian to be precise, I don't hear Kadir address him as such. Clan Malkavian, the Clan of the Moon, has earned its reputation as a place for total psychopaths. Yet, there is a twisted kind of reason to the madness of the children of Malkav. Their condition seems to stem from gazing too deeply into the web of connections that govern the world, from learning too much, seeing too much, feeling too much. Blood is how they self-medicate. All Malkavians suffer a mental breakdown following their embrace. Often, this is an exacerbation of a disorder, or disorders, plural, that are already present. But sometimes it is entirely new. Best described as unstable, there is no telling when a Malkavian will snap or drop some unexpectedly wise insight. Called oracles, jesters, or visionaries if you're being nice. Madmen, liabilities, and lunatics if you're not. Oh, this clan. I really like Clan Malkavian, I really do. The whole Mad Prophet thing is interesting. It is a fandom favorite to be sure. I think Bloodlines helped cement that with how entertaining the Malkavian characters are. I hope to see you tomorrow night. Oh, I will absolutely show up, provided I can. But just in case, I already apologize for not making it to the prince. Simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempo, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Just like his appearance, it all feels so fake. An aside, I'm not even gonna try to mimic that. He's owed money, of course. Comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in the New York region. Runs a wildly successful law office. Rubs elbows with elites of both kindred and kind varieties alike. He seems perfect in every way, and that's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkav, and must be blighted with some affliction, but whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding. The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you'll find the time. I pray I will, my good man, I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. He doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're all still hoping I'll simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, Kadir shakes his head. You wanted to hear about which members of the New York City's Camarilla I dislike the most? Yes? He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks. Too bad. They're all my dear colleagues and I deeply respect every single one of them. Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something that could lock you out of Mr. Van der Weyden's legal services, would you, you ask, yes, sir? I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent, and foul-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge. Rude. Do you still need me here? I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight. Don't worry, we're almost done. The prince is coming out. The captain is the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is, Helen Panhard, the big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her, the de facto ruler of New York City, and a self-professed patron of the arts. Kadir, a penny for your thoughts? You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. Van der Weyden is decidedly not. I suspect he will be too busy to join the festivities all the week through. Excellent. She turns to me. Miss Sovinsky, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight? There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Wise is back in the city. Catherine is here. Now that's a welcome surprise. But what does it have to do with you, Miss Sovinsky? She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding her arrival, Prince Penhart. It's all been taken care of. Kadir has already been informed of everything. That's certainly a nice gesture, but wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her? In a fast food restaurant, my prince. I see. Helen rubs her eyes. Catherine and her love for proletarian amusement. I suppose it'll be a source of amusing anecdotes this week. If we want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Miss Sovinsky an office of her own. We'll get to it eventually. There are more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow, and there's still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hall is secured before leaving? Certainly, my prince. Have a good night. Good night, Kadir. Good night, Miss Sovinsky. We'll talk about your work soon, don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Panhard. A chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and Kadir until the car disappears around the corner. More pressing matters, huh? A penny for your thoughts, Sheriff? I am certain an image of a keeper of the Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in Prince Panhard's mind. You're far closer to your goal now than you were a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now. And I stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia, sorry. As a Camarilla loyalist, you don't think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan, they're actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process? We've all had to endure our own hazing rituals, but yes, the current situation is not ideal. Whatever. You need a hand closing up the Elysium? I'll manage. It's getting late. Better run. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master. Now it's time to please the other. Yeah, here's the thing about working for two masters. Neither of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, Kadir shrugs. I wave to him goodbye and head for the subway. That painting is so good. Whatever complaints I might have about those VNs, the art style kicks some serious ass. When I reach St. Patrick's Cathedral, I'm greeted by a voice that grates on me like a thief on tinfoil. Well, 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 the prodigal daughter returns. Oh my god, no. This is the one thing I didn't want to happen. Yulia, please, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord. Hold on, I got snagged there for a second. Yulia, please, thou shalt not take the name of thy Lord and thy God in vain. Uh-huh. Where's Father Leonard? His clergy duties kept him from getting here on time. He sent me to apologize in his name and keep you company for a few minutes. That's the second thing he ought to apologize for. He just wants his flock to live in unity. I am more than willing to oblige him. Why won't you? For the last time, I'm not a part of his flock. We have a purely professional arrangement. I know you see it that way. The Knight clan's tendency to stick close to the Catholic Church is their greatest virtue, but they still consider this relationship purely instrumental. This is why we need kindred like you to bring the spiritual change to your clan, to make them understand God's precious gifts. The closer they get to the light, the greater their shadows will become. Again with his insufferable sermonizing. Benoit Segal here is a local nutjob and an ex-artist, a degenerate who had some sort of complete mental breakdown in the 90s. To recover, he took to religion for solace and guidance. At first, he proclaimed his readiness to devote the rest of his young life to studying Nazism. After a few years, though, he changed his mind and joined the Catholic Church instead. Clan Toreador, the most artistic of the kindred. The Toreador draw their ranks from the creative class, ranging from painters to digital content creators. Excuse me? The Clan of the Rose boasts many former famous actors, singers, writers, dancers, and even lauded sex workers. The goal is, of course, only to fill the Toreador clan with the best of the best, but its shallow fixation on youth and beauty has caused many hasty decisions. Probably more one-hit wonders under the roof than they care to admit. Also, plenty of insufferable divas and influencers. Kadir's one of them, but surprisingly, he doesn't show many of their regular traits. Maybe other than keeping himself impeccably slick at all times. Yep, Kadir is a Toreador. And I'm guessing his appreciation for art comes in the shape of, I guess, martial arts, fighting techniques. I mean, he has a sword, as we saw in the first installment. And I guess a bit of an appreciation for sports. Who knows? That guy is hard to read. We don't know much about him. Oh, I forgot to check Nodism. Unread. Nodism. A kind, a derogatory way for vampires to refer to mortals, comes from kindred and kine. Just remember that kine rhymes with swine and you'll get the picture. Nodism. The religious beliefs and studies pertaining to the origins of kindred and the myth of Cain, the alleged OG vampire. As luck would have it, his neophyte zeal found a major target in me. When I first met him, I was stupid enough to tell him I was raised Catholic, and still identified as such. Somewhat. He immediately pictured me as some sort of a force for change within the Camarilla, and set out to put me back on the righteous path. Now he won't stop preaching to me apparently until I become a nun. Remember, the darkest place is directly beneath the candle. You turncoats have this unfortunate predisposition to find salvation right within your grasp, and then lose your way in the shadows. Christ, once he starts, he just won't stop. I guess it's time to bring out the big guns. By the way, I was meaning to ask, got any news about Sophie Langley? A painful grimace crosses his face, but doesn't linger. Kind of rude to change the subject, you know. Rude? I'm just looking for a topic both sides of this conversation would care about. You know, like any guide on etiquette says you should. Salvation is a topic close to anyone's heart, whether they admit it or not. And it's pretty bold of you to assume I still care about Langley. I do not assume, I'm certain you do. The second she retires from the public eye, you stop acting like Jesus era Kanye and start acting like Jesus is King era Kanye. Coincidence? I've never had a Jesus era. Do people really call it that? Here's how it's going to work. Tell me what you know, I'll tell you what they say. And keep in mind, I didn't know she was your sire until a few nights ago. Hell, I haven't even met her. Yeah, Sophie Langley is a very important character from the first installment. If you played through that, you'll know why this is a thing now. If you don't, I guess this won't matter much to you anyway. He winces a bit at me saying hell, but lets it go. Sure, I figure you would have prodded that wound long ago if you knew. But what do you care anyway? Better to let you drone on about your tormented past than let you carry on with your good missionary shtick. Professional curiosity. Once a journalist, always a journalist. He scratches his head, then exhales in a sad mockery of a chuckle. Fine then. I'll do my best to make it short. Just like you said, Sophie Langley, every New York kindred's beloved socialite, was my sire. We first met sometime after World War II. I left France right before the Nazis went around the Maginot Line. I struggled to keep my siblings alive with my art. Watched my brother die during the flu epidemic of '43. I was close to losing my mind. That's when she showed up. Said the sheer torment of my works caught her eye. She became my patron, allowed my talents to flourish, and supported me financially. Eventually, she embraced me. As a well-off kindred, my artistic interests started to naturally deviate from what they used to be back when I was a poor mortal upstart. I began to see the world the way her social circle does. And that she couldn't forgive. Instead of being a fun novelty, I became just another part of the malaise surrounding her. She grew distant and then stopped seeing me altogether. I've had my share of meltdowns because of this, I won't deny that. I locked myself out of many career opportunities, but it was an important lesson. Yeah, apparently, a recurring stereotype about Malkavians is that they're pretty fickle sires. They embrace someone that they see as very beautiful or very creative and tremendously radiant in artistic potential. But that eventually ends, you know? They move on to something else, they get interested in something else, and their previous interest just gets abandoned. Don't trust your elders. Vampirism affects them psychologically as well. If they take interest in you, they won't stop until they suck your soul dry and then discard you like a broken toy. Elder. A few centuries of unlife will net you this big kindred milestone. An elder is only considered an elder after outlasting his or her fellow vampires for roughly 200 years. By then, they will have learned the rules of the great metagame of Jihad, the vast hidden war waged for centuries between the ancient undead. Elders are the chess masters, the rest of us are only the pieces, yada yada. Not that I think that Sophie was an elder. I don't think there's a single elder in this game or the last, considering that I don't remember if this was mentioned here before, but the beckoning essentially yeeted all of the elders to the Middle East. This supernatural calling that compels them to drop everything and go to the Middle East to fight in the Gehenna Wars. It's opened the door for a lot of
ancillae, which are essentially the rank in terms of age below elders but above neonates. They're old, like maybe a century or so, but not old enough to feel the beckoning. So that gave the ancillae the chance to fill the vacant spots in their societies, in the Camarilla, in the Anarchs. Not that I think there were many elders in the Anarchs, but still. And all of the Sabbat, according to the lore, has just left, because Gehenna was central to them the whole time, so they just all went there to the Middle East. Sorry for the info dump. It's not my job, it's the game's job. For the first time since I've known him, Segal registers to me as something other than a Bible-thumping nuisance. Is it compassion I feel? Do I find him relatable? How dreadful. It's possible he's strategically trying to elicit sympathy. Maybe he heard about my dramatic exit from Lodestar. Or maybe he's just alluding to the way my sire left me here to fend for myself. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see Karen again. The somber with a very unfortunate name. It is only God who will ever lead you astray. It is only God who will never lead you astray. This is why I find your act so frustrating, Yulia. You're so close to getting it, but you choose sin instead. There's the Benoit Segal I know. Almost had me fooled. Let's get back on track. What about Langley's disappearance from the city?
Her path was a road to perdition. Wherever she ended up, I doubt she's too happy about it. She had plans for the future of the city, wanted to make it her ultimate artwork. She always was a vain one. And, of course, you're completely sure you have nothing to do with her disappearance? Please don't tell me you're getting at what I think you're getting at. Everybody says you've been acting like you're trying to repent for something ever since her vanishing act, and you've got a motive. Of course, I'm getting at what you think I'm getting at. Benoit shakes his head. You really have the devil in your heart, Yulia. Always testing me. Just asking what everyone's thinking. Are they now? Listen, I'm familiar with a lot of the insults attached to my name in the city. Those aren't exactly compatible with the image of a ruthless killer. Killer, huh? Now that's interesting. I haven't said anything about killing. He scrubs his hands over his forehead and collects himself before responding. Stop picking apart every word I say in this completely unpleasant way. Here's a statement if you really want one, Miss Hercule Poirot. I do believe Sophie, the way I knew her, has met her end. Even if she's still walking this earth, she wouldn't come back here as the same prideful aristocrat. She'd have to undergo a spiritual rebirth. There he goes again. Someone has reminded her of her place. Her former friends talk of her in hushed voices. Even that servant Playtoy of her went missing. No more Camarilla parties, she's done for. Whatever happened to her, I don't know. I swear on Jesus and his sandals I had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm still here, and she's not. And it's not a reason to gloat, but to be more humble. I received a sign from God telling me to re-examine all the unfortunate ways I still resemble Sophie Langley. And I listened. I rejected the pride I shared with her. I renewed my vows to God, recommitted to preaching his greatness. I mean, this is why we're having this conversation in the first place. Right now, when I think of Langley's influence in my life, I am grateful because she was a sign that got me here. And, if God wills it, maybe one day you'll look at her the same way, Julia. Mental note, whenever he circles back to this preachy tone, it's time to intervene. Alright, if it makes you feel any better, I think that the only way a wimp like you could have hurt her was by boring her to death with Bible quotes. Now then, quid pro quo, tit for tat. You were saying people still talk about me. I was curious if... Oh, Luke is finally here. Stalling for time worked.
Father Leonard rushes in our direction, carrying a folder of documents under his arm. I assume it's the one I came here for. Father Leonard? Christ be praised, Julia. Yesterday, I was told this is how priests greet their parishioners in Eastern Europe. Forever and ever, amen. Actually, I think we said each other's lines. Never mind. Another long night? Another long night? Isn't it taking a toll on you? Oh, no need to worry. These days, I sleep a few hours a day. Short naps take care of the rest. And there's always work to be done. I apologize for being late. At least I managed to get here before you and Benoit went for each other's throats. Good. I was getting worried. Oh, who do you take me for, Father? He takes you for a total bozo who's about as effective at converting people as a documentary about pedophilia in the Catholic Church. He's just too kind to say it out loud. Ouch. Hear what I have to deal with, Father? But don't worry, we'll make a saint of her yet. Forget saint, for now it's settled for an adult in the room. You do remember he's at least 70 years older than I am, right? As far as I'm concerned, growing up has far less to do with age than with the conditions of our formative years. Here. That is so goddamn true. He gives me a folder he was carrying with him, and I pass him the reports I wrote earlier tonight. Among kindred, it is common knowledge that the Catholic Church is one of the La Sombra's greatest assets. Hell, it might even be one of the main reasons the Camarilla is slowly warming up to the clan. We are technologically impaired, and as such, woefully unprepared to face the challenges of communicating in the 21st century. Hard to handle advanced encryption when you can't even unlock a smartphone. This is where the Vatican connections enter the picture. A web of priests scattered all around the world exchange our dispatches between each other, making sure they all reach their destinations in total secrecy. I was told not everyone in the Holy See is friendly to our kind, but the most shrewd and talented usually are. You could say they are like a mortal Camarilla, better than any intelligence agency. Remember what happened to John Paul I when he attempted to uncover the workings of the Institute for the Works of Religion? Death after 33 days of papacy, rumors of CIA and Masonic involvement. Not that Father Leonard has anything to do with any of this. For a Catholic priest, he's all right. He'd probably have made me stay a believer a few years longer than I did, had I known him as a teenager. Leonard is intelligent, kind, helpful towards his parishioners, treats his superiors with a healthy dose of skepticism, and is not involved in any sort of political church games. Well, at least not beyond helping me contact my bosses in Chicago every night or so. He knows about the kindred, and he knows about the Second Inquisition. He opted to avoid the latter in order to keep the former from oppression, because according to him, it's the right thing to do. Interesting stance for a mortal. And I don't think he's a ghoul to anyone. The Second Inquisition. The philosophy of the War on Terror applied to us kindred. Somewhere along the way, some deep state assholes decided the way to handle the existence of vampires was to treat us as terrorists. Yet, the agents waging these operations against us often have no idea what the hell is going on, because some intra-agency collaboration created to hunt us doesn't tell anyone anything unless it's need to know. Among kindred, the term is most often abbreviated to SI. So yeah, basically the Masquerade is mostly busted. Humans know about vampires. They're hunting vampires down super intensely. And in this area of technology, of digital cameras, of white phosphorus rounds, it's crazy. It's not a good time to be a vampire. I know there's got to be something wrong with him, some selfish motivation maybe, and I haven't nailed it down yet, but it doesn't feel like he's making an effort to hide it, so I'm giving him a pass. By the way, I hope you don't mind. I finally took the liberty of asking how your parents are doing. Thank you, Father, but you shouldn't have. Not a problem. A priest at St. Stanislaus Kostka is a good friend. He says your parents started showing up every Sunday again, front rows. Your father is looking better and better. It makes me feel nothing, but I still give him a token nod and a grateful smile. Thank you, Father Leonard. Now, if you'll excuse me, the sunrise is almost here. Yes, be careful, and God bless you. Amen. Goodbye, Julia. I'll let you off the hook this time, but next time you won't be so lucky, alright? Sure. Just one more thing on my never-ending list of events I'm not looking forward to. Guess it's time to call it a night. I'm home. Finally. You doing alright? Fine, I guess. Why aren't you asleep? I figured it's finally time for me to become more of a night owl. We've talked about making our schedules sync better. Watch your vitamin D. I'd kill to have your skin. Would be ashamed to waste it. Shouldn't have smoked so much before you got bitten, sweetheart. Should have shared your skincare routine with me back when I was still breathing. I can't just be going around sharing my one secret weapon. It's top secret stuff. MK Ultra level. Jeffrey Epstein's current whereabouts level. I'd have to kill you if I told you. Fair? My kind also has a secret anti-aging weapon after all. But hey, if you don't care about that... Psh, and what would that be? Adrenochrome? Close. Spirit cooking. I have no idea what that is. Just so we're clear, you're shitting me, right? Of course I'm shitting you. We just drink blood. Nothing too satanic about that. Funny, because whenever I see your chest, I'm surprised there's no cross-shaped burn mark there. Well, since you mention it, never mind. I feel a little more self-conscious than usual tonight. Don't. You want me to do your makeup before you go to sleep? No need. No need? Weren't you supposed to have some sort of big party tomorrow night? I wasn't involved in the backstage stuff. What makes you think I was invited? Because you're the coolest, cutest, and the most all-around amazing person I know? That'd be insane not to put you on a short list. Believe it or not, but most vampires are pretty insane. Interdimensional psychic vampire level insane? Because that's how crazy they'd have to be to ignore you like this. Yeah, I would say so. Fuck them then. A big bunch of posh dicks. They hate you because they ain't you. But they'll see. Jesus, how do you do it? Do what? You always assault me with so much of this weird, stupid positivity that I can't react to it without completely shifting my mental attitude. How do you do it? Oh, the answer is easy. You remember how I told you we have this spiritual connection? I can sense what you feel and want. You can sense what I feel too if you really focus. Yeah, I think I called it a big load of bullshit. Said a girl who talks to ghosts. But watch this, Agent Scully. I sensed you feeling down, and I realized what you really need to end this night. She points to one of her drawers. It's the one where she keeps her supply of... ketamine? Come on. What? No, wrong drawer. We're not meeting demons, we're meeting angels. MDMA? Ding ding ding! Took it half an hour ago. Perfect timing, thanks to our spiritual connection. Ready to fly away? The mood isn't right. I need music. Got a special SoundCloud playlist ready to go, prepared specifically to uplift one Yulia Sovinsky. Just give me a sign, and I'll press play. Jesus, you're impossible. That's why you love me, I hope. I give up. Come here, let me have a taste of you. Maybe this one time,
the high won't end.
So, a bit of an explanation on that. Vampires cannot do drugs the normal way. They cannot just inject it, they cannot smoke it, they cannot snort it, but they can get a contact high from drinking the blood of a mortal who is on that drug. So that explains why her girlfriend, question mark, is doing that, taking the drug, so Yulia will feed on her and get the high. Also interesting to note that, as far as we know in the story, Dakota is not a ghoul. A ghoul is one of the servants that vampires have. You feed them some of your blood, and it creates a blood bond with them. They become unfailingly loyal to you, and they stop aging as long as they keep drinking your blood periodically. However, as we'll see expanded later, Dakota is not a ghoul. She's a human, and the Camarilla, for one reason or another, allowed her to have that, even though it's kind of a small breach of the Masquerade. Worlds are not supposed to know, and the ones that do are ghouled, so they don't tell. So it'll be interesting to see the development of this relationship as the story goes along. So, oh boy, we've been here a while. Well, that's good enough for one episode, I suppose. So, thank you guys for accompanying me this long. I'm sorry for the long silence of not posting anything, but life is crazy. This is more like a hobby that I do. It's not something I want to do professionally. And, so I have other things going on, but if you guys enjoyed this, let me know. It'll probably give me more motivation to do more of this. And not just let's reads like this one. Maybe let's plays, because I finally have a computer that can stand most games. So what do I play? I have Among Us. That's a pretty low bar in terms of graphics, but it's a very fun game. I have a group of friends that I can play with. I have Final Fantasy XIV. I could always revisit Bloodlines if you guys are interested. Maybe play with one of the mods. Not the Final Nights. I've had enough of the Final Nights mod. Never again. Never again. But I'm willing to record myself playing through the Clan Quest mod, which, in case you don't know, is a mod that gives some extra unique side quests based on your player character's clan. They are given by NPCs of that clan at some point throughout the story. Pretty interesting. The people who made it were very dedicated to it. A lot of voice acting was involved there. And gosh, they even added like a Sabbat chapter. Like, you can actually join the Sabbat and have this whole thing going on. You have a whole new hub in the game in East LA. You go through a series of very involving quests to get into a pack. You meet your Ductus, and it's very, very cool. If you want to see me play that, let me know in the comments. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say for now. So, hope you're doing well, stay at home, stay safe, and have a good night.